His grandmother was Thunder. His father was murdered by creatures who cannot survive daylight. And this man will climb a rope of vine straight off the face of the world, past the point where a climber must not look down, to the highest of 10 heavens. Every mythology has a hero who goes somewhere no one should be able to go. The Greeks sent Orpheus down into the underworld. The Maori tradition of Aotearoa sends its hero up. His name is Tāwhaki, and his story runs in one straight, breathtaking line, from a crime at the bottom of the sea, to a rope of vine hanging out of the sky, to the uppermost of 10 heavens. This is the tradition's great ascent. It begins, like so many of the best ones, with a family broken in the dark. Start with the blood in this man's veins, because none of what follows makes sense without it. In the telling the old records preserve, Tāwhaki's great line begins when Whaitiri, the goddess of thunder herself, came down from heaven. The great fame of a man called Kai Tangata had reached the sky, the record says, and she believed his reputation to be that of a warrior. So she descended, storm to soil, and took him as her husband, a being of thunder, married into the human world. And the tradition does not soften what she was. Whaitiri, the old encyclopedia states flatly, was a cannibal, and the marriage strained on exactly that point. Her husband did not share her taste for human flesh. The thunder goddess had come down expecting a fellow predator and found instead an ordinary decent man. It is one of the strangest domestic arrangements in any mythology. Dinner, in that house, was a theological dispute. She bore him a son, Hema, and then, the way beings of the sky so often do in these stories, she left. She returned to heaven, pausing only to leave instructions. Stay here. Call our child Hema, in remembrance of my living with you as your wife. And she was gone, back up into her own country, leaving behind a family that now had thunder on one side of its wakapapa and mortal flesh on the other. Hold on to that. Tāwhaki is the grandson of thunder. The sky is not a foreign country to his bloodline. It is the old family estate. And everything he will do in this story is, in a sense, a grandson finding his way back to his grandmother's house. Hema grew and had sons of his own, Tāwhaki, and his younger brother, Karihi. And then Hema was killed. His killers are one of the eeriest inventions in the tradition, the Ponaturi. The old record describes them precisely, a race whose country was underneath the waters, but who kept a great house on dry land, called Manawatane, to which they returned at night to sleep. Sea beings who borrowed the land after dark. And they had one law of survival. Daylight was death to them. They rose before dawn and were gone into the sea before the sun could find them. The Ponaturi slew Hema and carried off his body. His wife, Tāwhaki's mother, they took alive and kept as a captive in that house by the sea, where her captors slept in their thousands every night. So the shape of the revenge problem is this. An enemy that cannot be fought in the water outnumbers you beyond counting on the land and sleeps every single night in one room. Tāwhaki and Karihi went to Manawatane. Even from a great distance as they approached, the record has Tāwhaki chanting an incantation, and the bones of his father, Hema, felt the influence of it. The dead knew his sons were coming. They found their mother there, alone in the daylight hours, keeping the house of the people who had murdered her husband. The whole tribe of the Ponaturi was away in their country under the waters. At nightfall they would come home in their numbers, fill the great house entirely, and sleep. The plan the family made together is the tradition at its sharpest, because the brothers did not raise a weapon. They understood what the real weapon was. The Ponaturi feared the dawn. Their whole existence hung on being back beneath the water before sunrise. So the family made the house itself lie to them. Every doorway was stopped, every window sealed, so that not a ray of light could penetrate. Inside, blackness, a night that would not end. The tribe came home at dusk and packed the great house until it was filled with them, and by degrees they arranged themselves and fell fast asleep. At midnight, the record says, Tāwhaki and Karihi stole down from the roof of the house, and their mother crept out of the door to meet them, and the three sat at the doorway, whispering the plan together, the captive and her sons, conspiring in the dark against a house full of the sea. And through the small hours, the trap was tested. Again and again, an old voice would call out from among the sleepers, "Ho there! Is it not near dawn?" And the answer came back from the doorway, "No. Sleep on. It is still night." It was the mother who held that line. Every time the question came, the woman they had kept as a slave told her captors the lie that was killing them. It was not still night. Outside, the sun rose and climbed high into the heavens while the Ponaturi slept in their sealed darkness, and when the moment was right, the coverings were pulled away. The old record gives the ending one perfect sentence. The bright rays of the sun came streaming into the house, and the whole of the Ponaturi perished before the light. They perished not by the hand of man, but withered before the sun's rays. Tāwhaki avenged his father without swinging a blade. He simply let the morning in. That is the earthly half of Tāwhaki's story. What comes next points straight up, and here the old records themselves part ways, so you will hear both. In the telling Governor Gray recorded in 1855, a girl of the heavenly race, Tango, though Gray notes that in some traditions her name is Hapai, came down and stole every night to Tāwhaki's side, and was gone by morning. She bore him a daughter, Arahuta, and then one day, over the newborn, Tāwhaki said something unforgivable, a single cruel remark about his own child. Tango rose, took the baby in her arms, and flew back toward the sky she came from. In that telling, the climb is a husband and father going after the family he drove away, up, because up is where they went. The other record, preserved in the old Encyclopedia of New Zealand, tells it differently. There, Tāwhaki climbs first and marries the heavenly woman Hapai after he arrives, winning knowledge in the uppermost heaven. Two tellings, one truth between them. The top of the sky held something Tāwhaki could not live without, and there was exactly one road, because here is the secret the tradition keeps at the center of this story. Heaven and earth are still connected. When Tain pushed the sky and the ground apart at the beginning of the world, something remained. Vines, hanging from the heavens, their ends reaching all the way down. And where those tendrils touched the earth, someone was waiting. An old woman sat at the foot of the vines, holding the ends in her hands, appointed, the record says, to take care of them, a guardian at the bottom of the only road to heaven, and she was completely blind. Gray's record names her Māori. In other tellings, she is Whaitiri herself, the thunder grandmother, grown old and dark-eyed at the foot of the road home. The brothers restored the old woman's sight, and in return, the guardian of the vines gave them the one thing every climber of this road needs more than strength, the rules. Do not begin the ascent in the evening. Wait for morning. Do not look down when you are midway between heaven and earth, or you will grow giddy and fall. And above all, there are two kinds of vine hanging from the sky. One has rooted its end back into the earth. It holds. The other hangs loose, swaying in the air. Never take hold of the loose one. Karihi grabbed the loose one. He sprang at the tendrils, caught the swinging vine by mistake, and the sky took him. The old record rides the whole arc of it. Away he swung, out to the very edge of the horizon. Then a blast of wind drove him back, up heavenwards, down again with the currents of air. A man whipped across the whole width of the world on a loose rope of vine. As he came near the earth once more, Tāwhaki shouted the only thing that could save him. "Now, my brother, loose your hands. Now." Karihi let go and landed and lived. The brothers wept together over how nearly the road had killed him. That is what the loose vine does. And that is the last we see of Karihi on this road. In this telling, the rest of the ascent belongs to Tāwhaki alone. Understand what had just been demonstrated. The vines are identical to the eye. The difference between the road to heaven and a catapult across the horizon is only this: whether the far end has taken root. The whole climb rests on a grip you choose before you can know if it will hold. Tāwhaki took hold of the parent vine, the aka Matua, the one rooted in the earth, and began to climb. "Hold fast, my child," the old woman called up after him. "Let your hands hold tight." And as he climbed, he did the other thing the road demands. He recited, over and over, the incantations that protect a climber on that terrible ascent. a man chanting his way up the side of the sky, hand over hand. Somewhere on that rope of vine comes the moment the guardian warned him about, midway between heaven and earth, where the climber must not look down upon this lower world lest he become charmed and giddy and fall. Picture the discipline of that. Higher than any bird, the whole earth hanging under your heels like a dropped coin. And the one rule is, do not look at it. Chant, grip, climb. The world you are leaving will try to call your eyes back down, and your eyes are the one thing you cannot give it. He didn't look. He climbed. The old encyclopedia gives the destination plainly. He climbed by the parent vine, recited the appropriate spells, and gained the uppermost of the 10 heavens. A living man, standing above every sky there is. What did he win up there? The records give their answers. In one, the knowledge of the highest heaven, spells obtained from Tāwhaki, the sacred learning that only exists above the clouds, and a heavenly wife, Hapai. In Gray's telling, the family he had followed into the sky. In both, everything he climbed for. And the tradition adds one detail that turns the whole story into weather. Tāwhaki never came back down. Gray's record closes with it. Tāwhaki is said to dwell in the skies still, and is worshipped as a god, and thunder and lightning are said to be caused by his footsteps when he moves. Listen to what the tradition has done there. The story began with thunder coming down, Whaitiri descending to marry a mortal man. It ends with her grandson going up and becoming the thunder himself. The family line runs earth to heaven and back like a circuit. The storm married in, and 3 generations later, the storm walked home. So when the sky cracks over Aotearoa, this telling offers you a genealogy for the sound. That is not weather up there. That is the man who climbed, still walking. Stand at the bottom of this story and look up the way Tāwhaki did. A murdered father, avenged with a sunrise, a grandmother made of thunder, who came down for a warrior and left behind a bloodline, a captive mother who held the door and told the lie that saved her sons, a wife who went back to the sky, or a prize that was always there, depending on whose telling you keep. A blind guardian holding the ends of the only road, a brother nearly thrown off the world for gripping the wrong vine, and then one man, chanting, climbing past the place where you must not look down, all the way to the top of the 10th heaven, where he lives to this day, audible in every storm. Notice, too, what this story quietly teaches about how the tradition sees the world. The sky is not sealed. The separation Tain forced at the beginning of things was never total. The vines still hang, the road still exists, and the difference between falling and arriving is knowing which things are rooted and holding on to those. It is a mythology, in the end, about grip. The tradition that told of Tain pushing the sky away, and Maui dying to conquer death, and Kupe chasing a monster to a new world, also built this, a road back up to the heavens, and a man with the nerve to take it. Those other stories are already on this channel. Every claim checked against the record, every telling honest about where the old sources disagree. The full source list sits in the description below, if you want to follow it up yourself. Subscribe, and the next one climbs straight to you. We're working our way through the whole tradition, one myth at a time. The vine is rooted. Hold fast and climb.